episode. Oh, and she's telling me the meeting's being recorded, by the way. That's fantastic.
Official. You got to be on record here, man.
It's official. Today, we have a very special guest, the freak, Mr. Pat Capra, president of Malka Sports, the man, the myth, the legend. My friend, how are you doing today?
Man, every day's Christmas over here, D. We're doing fantastic, man. And the holding it down in the Malka Sports bunker won't be in here much longer. We started opening up the office again, so excited to get there more and more now.
Nice. Nice. So yes, as we had a little mic drop moment before we started the recording this morning, but as all the guests can now see, Pat he said he got to about 120 days on that. The Malka Sports Bunker, it's where it's at. It's also known as Pat's basement.
So. That's it. That's it. We pride ourselves at Malka on our high-end design. And when COVID struck, boy, we had to make do. And so the first day, I want to say it was something like March 17th, 18th, somewhere around there was my last day in the office. And so the next day I was coming downstairs and I said to my kids, I was like, all right, going down to the Malka Sports bunker. And they're like, what? I said, the basement, So my 11-year-old daughter, Riley, ran downstairs about an hour later with this lovely Malka Sports bunker sign that she made. And I just started, keeping track of the days like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank. And as I told people before, I got to about 120 something days. And that's when I realized, D, we don't count the days. We got to make the days count. So
there it is. There it is. Oh, we did it.
So now we can just frame it and leave it. That's where we realize we're going to make them count from here on out. So it's I'll probably take it with me when I go back to the actual office as a memory. But yeah. Anyway, man, thanks for having me on. Super excited. Jumping at any chance to chat with you and catch up. So thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. It's awesome to have you. Anybody that knows the story, Mr. Capra and I have been friends now for probably, oh my gosh, like 10 years, maybe even more. DSM is 14 and a half, and Pat was one of those guys. So the story with Pat, it's actually interesting because our paths with our respective companies kind of run parallel. Pat had a company back in the day that lives in infamy now, Lunar Sports Group. That's how he kind of got his start. But it was interesting when we met because Pat's world, like obviously anybody that knows me knows like I'm a big sports nut. And that was Pat's world before starting Lunar and going out on his own. You were with who the Nets back at like Brendan Byrne.
That's a Continental. But
Continental. All right. I'm taking it back way back on that one, but same building, different name.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. We'll obviously get up to the present day of kind of where you're at, and the explosion and just dominant force that Malka has become and is becoming. But give us a little bit of background about the Freak. How'd you get your start? Like, what was it about the business that you loved? You'll see in this interview, guys, this guy right here is just one of the best people that I know, just an amazing personality. My homage, obviously, the reason why I wanted to get Pat on was the story of how we kind of like got started together and started running in the same crowd together, and the things that have happened since then. But just an amazing personality, and it shows in how like Pat just reached out like 10 years ago and was like, yo, dude, we got to hang out and have beers and ribs. And anybody who can, knows me, like beer and ribs, like game on, let's go. So tell us a little bit about Pat and how you got your start and kind of like where it's going.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. And thank you, obviously, for the kind words. It goes without saying, I feel the same way about you. Look, man, I'm getting older now, so the story's getting longer, and I'm like a grandpa. I'll retell the same stories over and over again to the same people, and they'll be long-winded. So, whatever recording this is going on is probably going to tap out midway through. So I'll try and tighten everything up. But just a quick background, want to get into broadcasting, went to Ithaca College, came out of college, and started working for the New York Giants, got an internship that summer, 2001, the year they won to the Super Bowl. And then after that summer, I got hired as the full-time employee out of the interns to ride that out um, for the season with the Giants. It was amazing. Went to the Super Bowl, just incredible. To think I had been a Giant fan my whole life, never been to a game, and now going to travel to the Super Bowl and the playoff games. It just was an incredible experience, and the people that I met and worked with, the staff, they're still friends 20 years later to this day. Just I'm so grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. But um, while I was there, I started to develop friendships and relationships with guys on the team and started understanding they would complain about these empty promises that their agents had made to them. And I didn't know what that meant. Again, I was 22 years old, 23 years old at the time. And basically they said, well, they're recruiting me. They're promising they'll help me out with this, that, the other. Then once I get in the league, I don't hear from them. They don't help me out with anything off the field. So I just said, well, that sucks. I just started as a favor to these guys, started calling around, setting up appearances, endorsements, etc. And so I was doing that for free. I was just giving them the money that came in. I just thought it was fun, right? I wanted to be a broadcaster. I was doing production. I was production assistant, lowest guy in the totem pole. Um, excuse me, just hanging lights and building the set, etc. So fast forward, after that season of helping these guys out off the field, they said, you should go get certified to become an agent. You're doing the hard part, and all the legwork and the contracts, not rocket science. So I looked into it and I had a bunch of fun doing it. So I went and got certified by the NFLPA, became an agent, right? Took the test and paid the fees and passed and became a certified contract advisor. So I decided I was going to be an agent. So I left the Giants after that year and realized I had no money and no clients, which is never a good place to start a company. And so I took a job with the New Jersey Nets and I sold season tickets for 2.5 years. And at night and on weekends, I would come home and build up the company and recruit and make relationships, et cetera, which is why my company was called Lunar Sports Group, because I was moonlighting. All right. I was building up at night and on weekends. So after about 2.5 years, I left the Nets and pursued full time because I said, look, if I don't do this, I'm going to be doing it part time the rest of my life, and I'll always regret it. And I had nothing holding me down at the time, no, wife, kids, mortgage, etc., any excuse not to. So I went after it, and thankfully to this day, 15 years later, I'm still in it and loving it and growing it and super excited. And I'll bring it to the point where we met, because I think this is important to reference, your success, which is really how I noted you. I was reading NJ Biz magazine and read an article about the top PR and advertising companies. I got to give you your flowers here, D. This is the truth.
Bro, this plaque that you're talking about, the first year we ever made the NJ Biz list, still lives in infamy because they misspelled something on the plaque. So we actually got the plaque for free. But the best part about it was, I think the list goes to like from 1 to 50. And I think we were number 50. And it said something like, we made the list, like you could get like a little saying on it, like we made the list. We're number 50, ... out of 50, ... Like
It's
we
like
made it.
it's like the NFL draft, Mr. Irrelevant. You're the last one, but you're in.
Yep.
But that was the first year. But the year I saw it, my friend, it was the top 50 PR and ad agencies separately, and you were in both lists in like the top 15 in both of them. And I was like, wait, this is the same company, And I was like, damn, okay. And my thought was at the time, let me reach out to this company because we're working in the business of sports. And you guys could be an ad agency, a PR agency doesn't have a specialty in sports, so maybe there's an opportunity for us to collab. And so I went on your website, loved it. The vibe was, immaculate, and loved everything saying. I saw you were a huge Packers fan. I declined on the Packers. They just won the Super Bowl. So anyway, I reached out to you, and I was like, hey, listen, we gotta collaborate. I mean, there seems to be a lot of synergy here potentially. This is what I do, this is what you do. And we sat down to meet in your office, and 3 hours later, I left. We had, a couple of drinks and just had an absolute awesome time. And that's when I realized, like, whether or not we do anything business wise together, I'd met a friend that I knew was going to be in my life for a while. So here we are 10 years later.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Just to think it back, like to where we were at that point, and the fact that, again, the companies, I think both companies at that point were young, and kind of like you think back to that time and you're like, oh my gosh, how stupid were we? Like it was just like a bunch of kids doing, at that time, I was a little further along when like being married, and I don't think I had kids yet. Or maybe Olivia was just born or around being born, but it was like, it was just crazy to think about it. And here we are all these years later. And again, we'll get into the evolution of kind of like Lunar, that's now Malka Sports, and kind of what I mean, because one of the beautiful things about this beautiful man over here is how humble he is. And it's one of the traits that I most admire about what you do. I mean, where you started to where you are now, and kind of what you're doing, and how you've always handled yourself. The Pat that I knew 11 years ago is still the same Pat that, I mean, yes, we're a little grayer and a little older, but we're creaking a little bit more, but the same guy. It's like you get the Pat you see is the Pat you'll always get. And never never one to not take a phone call. We've over the course of the years, we've had some tough conversations on the phone, and you've always been there as a friend. It's one of the things that I very much admire about who you are. I can remember a few conversations a few years ago that, you stayed on the phone with me for an hour and a half, 2 hours at 6 o'clock at night when you didn't need to. So I appreciate that very much. And so tell the audience, okay, we got the early days, and that turned into, I think we went to, where'd we go? Like we went to Tiffany's for like ribs and beers. I think that first Tony Saragusa's place, and like, it was all awesome. But then over time, over time, Pat has become a part of, not only a part of, probably the beacon of modeling at Behind the Seams. Always a national treasure when it comes to your modeling skills, stealing the show. But on top of that, all the other things that the organizations that we've helped together. So not only has Pat and his organization become a part of Behind the Seams, but on the other side of it, I actually just got off the phone with Brett and Alexa yesterday and Backpacks for Life, and we've taken on a few endeavors now, where Pat's gotten me kind of hooked in to other organizations like Backpacks for Life. And we're, on the verge of doing, I think, our fourth or fifth golf outing in September. But just the connections that are made, Pat is very similar to me in that he's all about the connection, and he's all about making sure that people are, or that sort of like nexus point. That's a really cool thing about Pat that I love. Tell us a little bit about that connection and sort of like the giving back part, because I think that'll take us into what you're doing with Malka, and how that's grown. It's grown. That could be the understatement of the century. It's exploding right now. So
Listen, there's a lot to unpack there, right? So first, go back to, as I get older here and I got these kids, right? They're 11, 9, and today's my youngest daughter's 7th birthday today. So, I tend to get a little more emotional now, D. So don't go talking about too much. But I just want to touch on the fact that, you talk about that conversation we had for a couple hours. Like, that is a reflection of what you've poured into me, right? And I care about you because you cared about me, right? That you can learn a lot about someone who they have nothing to gain anything from, how they treat someone they have nothing to gain anyone from, right? And so for our relationship, you weren't looking for anything out of me. I couldn't necessarily do anything for you. And you were always someone who said yes to any question, any favor I ever needed, volunteering, putting yourself out there. So of course I'm going to have the same, for you. And that goes, for life, business, personal, whatever it is, family, way beyond. Right. So I'm fortunate that we're friends. Right. And the idea that I reached out under a business auspice and we go and meet and then realize like, man, I don't care if we ever do business together. Now we'll figure something out down the road, but we can help each other out, and this will be, definitely someone I'm riding with for a long time. So that kind of dovetails into the question about the philanthropy and the connections and the relationships and backpacks for life. And early on, when I had started my company originally, you know I was requested by Anthony Fasano, actually, who, there you go, Anthony, right there. Um, Anthony was one of the first clients I recruited out of college, was a tight end out of Notre Dame. And I'm going to the second round. I finished in second place for him. And I was way out over my skis, probably in terms of, man, like, I can't believe I got to second with a guy that was that good, but I developed a good relationship with him and the family. And he, decided to go to a much larger agency, who did right by him and did well. And it was, obviously a good decision. Everything worked out for him. I was 26 years old at the time. And he was like, hey, listen, I'd love for you to help me off the field. I want to start a foundation. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And he was like, I want to help children with autism. And so I hooked him up with a group I knew, Reed Academy, which, was a school for children with autism here in New Jersey. And we started that. And so we ran a golf outing to raise money. And then from that, we invited a bunch of NFL players. And then from there, Brian Leonard came up to me, who went to Rutgers, also a second round pick to the Rams. And he was like, hey, Pat, he's like, you ran this event. Could you run something like this for me? And so fast forward, we end up doing a charity bowling event for Brian, for Embrace Kids Foundation, for helping kids with pediatric cancer, and then the McCourty twins. And so came up and we're like, hey, we'd like to do an event. So we launched Tackle Sickle Cell. So all of that is just natural evolution of developing philanthropic initiatives for athletes and helping them execute and build off their platform and everything, right? So that's where all of those relationships and that space started happening. And Anthony wanted to do a bocce tournament in town in Verona. So we started it, and he wanted to help, a military nonprofit. And so we got connected with Backpacks for Life, that he was very, very close with, Brett Alessandro and Alexa. And, connecting the dots to you when you had reached out to me just probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago. And you said, hey, Pat, we'd love, we're going to run a golf outing and we want to help, a military nonprofit. And I said, have you picked the, charity yet? He said, not yet. I said, can I introduce you to Backpacks for Life? We met and everybody fell in love together. And now here we are 5 years later, or so, running another golf outing with Backpacks for Life. And I don't know. I mean, I think that's, to me, one of the things that always stood out about you was that selflessness, right? And it brought itself forward not only in the friendship, but also from a business, that you were a monster sponsor of behind the scenes. We talked about that day one. And then, all you've done over the years, both not only with your time, but with your finances as well, to support Backpacks for Life. So again, those are just, why do we stick together? Why are we friends? Because we have these, commonalities, and you have qualities of someone that, I want around, my life. So that's why, we've been able to stick around and be friends.
It's it is a testament. And to your point about one thing you just said with regards to it, if Pat Capra and you need something, there's not a wall this guy wouldn't run through. And that's something that yeah, it's the same thing. It's actually really it's really cool to be able to talk about this, to be able to connect with people. And again, this is now, you're going to be the 11th episode of this, and
Lucky 11. Bobby Hurley, Duke, good number.
Bobby Hurley, number 11. It's one of those things where to be able to go back with people that I've just met in COVID, old bosses, my mentor, Kenny's daughter, my mom, like the list, every time I think, I'm worried that I'm not going to have enough people to do this. It just reinforces the fact of what you just said, that through this 14-year journey, there have been so many people who maybe you haven't said thank you to enough. Maybe you haven't, because you're the same way I would. Like the last 12, 14 years, run like crazy. Um, you know, Getting married, having children, like all the things that go along with that, and then trying to run a business. And, I think one of the things that really came out of this year that people don't realize, um, it was hard at times. It was really, really difficult because one of the things about you that I love too is that the people that work, like Malka is not just a company. Like the people that are there are important to you, and they're people that are close to you, and guys like Kev that are like, ex-clients, and like people that like really know about the fabric of not only the business that you've created, but the person that you are. um, it's really important. Um, I just, and there's people that have come before. Like the whole point of this is realizing that there are people that have come before, that when you say like, oh, um, you're giving of your time and your money. Well, I have a mother-in-law who that's what their family business is built on, and she set a great example. And guys like Kenny Sullivan that said, that had a 35-year career at Viacom, that was like, anything you do with this, it's not about you. It's not about you. And those are the people that um, have come before, and that I hope that, and I know you're the same way, that you continually give to, and you continually give of yourself and your time and your resources, and all the things that go along with that. But fast forward to the last few years, Malka, like
Crazy.
this company's blown up. You're like blown up. Like it's insane the trajectory that you have gone on with this company. How do you hold it all together?
So first off, going back to this concept, I love that you're doing this. I know you said it's therapeutic. One of my favorite lines from my guy Kanye West was, "If you admire somebody, you should tell them. People never get the flowers while they can still smell them." So I think it's awesome that you're doing this. And so the idea that I'm only 10 behind your mom, I mean, that's pretty impressive. Um, in terms of Malka, like, listen, man, I mean, it's been one of the best professional choices I've ever made to join forces with Malka. Um, there's a saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that's resonated with me on really since the day I decided to join forces and take Lunar to combine with Malka Media to create, Malka Sports. My partners, Lewis, Dan, and Jeff are, fantastic. And it's just really the overall company, that we decided to join into. The insane staff, the talent that is there is just incredible. And to help in building our sports practice, it was super important for me to have people around that not only played the game as we were representing NFL players, but understood the kind of character, right? And so the first move I made was to bring Kevin Malast in, who very well, and Kev's our VP of talent. And I represented Kev as he played 4 years in the league, 2 with the Titans, 2 with the Bears. Had a stop in Jacksonville as well. And then we added Julian Pinnock-Odrick, who is our marketing manager now and runs all of our socials, as well as getting certified to become an agent himself. And so, those are guys that I represented. And so to be able to have, people that, understand that representation side inside and out, and now understand how to serve others was super, super important. And then from Malka as a whole, the company is just grown extremely quickly. It's a crazy story, which, I'll save for a longer form podcast. But, Lewis, when he first started, Malka Media, he started it at the same exact bedroom that I started Lunar Sports Group out of a couple years later. I had moved out of this apartment. He randomly moved into this apartment. We didn't know each other whatsoever. So we started these companies. We got introduced to each other later. And basically we started helping each other out and collaborating. I was making sports introductions for him, and he was, creating, content, for us. I was bringing athletes to him, and he would create sizzle reels and digital, marketing profiles for our athletes. And about 3.5, 4 years ago now, we collaborated. A client of mine, Bob Hurley Sr., I just, was a legendary Hall of Fame basketball coach at St. Anthony's. I had just been helping Bob over the years with speaking engagements, helping him out, and he would donate all the money to the school. And, about 4 years ago, you know, Bob said, listen, I really think we're in jeopardy of shutting down. I said, you've been saying that for 27 years, and he's like, I think this is it, we're in trouble. And so in an effort to try and save the school, we decided, I went to Lewis and what can we do? And, can we put a doc series together or something to follow the team? So Lewis, scrambled the jets and got the team together. We went to Showtime. Showtime Sports was unbelievable in supporting, and obviously they're extremely aware of Bob and his legacy and importance in basketball. And so we did a doc series. They aired on Showtime, and basically after that, Lewis and I kind of looked at each other, said, let's stop dating, let's get married. And so we were able to bring together, sports and the content, and it's just been incredible. I'm so proud and honored to be aligned, with Malka, and then the team that has just completely grown there. I mean, we've added about 70 people over this past year. So there's now 150 full-time employees, including our office in Santa Monica, which we opened about 2.5 years ago. Um, and so it's been an incredible journey. Obviously everything from full length documentaries, we did 2 last year, to, 15 video first podcasts that we do, to representing, talent on and off the field, and athletes on and off the field, their marketing, et cetera, their brand partnerships, and then also their contracts. So it's been awesome. And again, my role, I'm just, a part of the puzzle, because every day, I am selling things that other people are creating, right? And so you have to understand that when I talk to sometimes the staff, even some of the designers, right, are incredible graphic designers, that like never confuse your proximity to the athlete with your importance to the mission, your importance to the mission. And so the idea would be that, yeah, you might not be in that room pitching that athlete, but I am showing your content, what you have created, for them, and poured into them. And that's also one of the great things we get to do, is when we bring the athletes into the office and they get to meet all of the production staff that helped, build up this, charitable initiative for them, or the, brand opportunities for them, or things that they hadn't met. So apologies for being long-winded, but that's kind of the genesis of everything.
No, trust me, people would rather hear you than me. Um, and honestly, there's the stuff you guys create is, and I say stuff that does total discredit to the work and the output, the sheer output that you guys are doing. And if you get a chance, so there's two parts of that. So first, with Julian and Kev, what you are saying, that is, not only are those two guys super important to the company, but you've brought in amazing humans. That is why, in addition to yourself, and in addition to, as you aligned with Malka Media, there's a reason why these things are happening. And again, your humbleness, always comes through. There's a reason why all these good things are happening for Pat, and for the companies and the folks that are aligned with you. It's because you've surrounded yourself with really good people that give a crap about the things, the initiatives, the other people, other human beings. And that shines through. I mean, you get a chance, anybody that gets a chance, the office in Jersey City is, and I probably have it, it's probably totally different from the last time that I saw it, which was a few years ago. Um, First thing, if you ever need a chaperone in Santa Monica, I'm available for jelly beans. I will.
I got the short straw, man. I'm in Jersey City. Lewis is out in Santa Monica.
Lewis is living his best life out in Santa Monica
That's
right
it.
now.
The burden he has, you
Yeah.
know, perfect weather every day.
Yeah, the struggle, Lewis. We feel for you, bro. It's actually pretty nice here today. So
Right. We shouldn't complain too much. Well, I think, you know, part of it, you know, to just touch on like, you know, things turning and going well and everything. It's like when I was in college, my senior year, um, the Fonz actually gave our inauguration speech. God, I'm blanking on his name. Who's the Fonz?
oh,
Yeah,
like the actual like Arthur
yeah, yeah.
Fonzarelli?
That's God. Why am
Oh,
I
it's what's his name? Oh, now I'm blanking on
Henry
it.
Winkler? Henry Winkler. God,
Henry Winkler,
of
yeah.
course, yeah, Henry Winkler. So, yeah,
Hey.
so that's what we were doing. Like when he was going up there, we're like, hey, you know, like we were thinking, like, oh, you know, this is gonna be a joke. What is it gonna be? He delivered an awesome, awesome speech. To this day, my buddies and I still talk about it. We were like floored. And his big thing was, if you will it, it is not a dream. That was his message, right? And so I've thought about that constantly all the time as, you know, starting a company and trying to build it and trying to figure it out and failing over and over again and like, you know, learning lessons and, you know, scars to prove it type of thing. And if you will, it is not a dream. And then eventually, you know, when you know things start to turn, you know, and a couple of years ago, actually, he won, I think either an Emmy or an Oscar. I can't remember. And it was really cool. He he'd been in the business his whole life. This was his, you know, first Emmy again or Oscar that he had won, and he had talked about, you know, losing so many hands at the table over the years. But if you can stay at the table long enough, eventually the cards will change, you know. And tonight he's taking home all the chips. It was, you know, again, I'm paraphrasing, but that was his line. And again, you know, sometimes it's, you know, it's about, you know, never losing the lesson in the loss, right? As you're growing and starting, because there, you know, so many companies, as you know, come out the gates and they open and they close and they fail, right? And so sometimes just staying in the fight and being able to learn from those losses and understand and teach yourself, right? And you know, being humble enough and also hungry enough to continue to work to get better and to not stay content with where you're at. And so, you know, as we, you know, talk about where we're at right now, it's just the people, you know, because it's, you know, it's the things that aren't on the resume that decide whether or not, you know, companies are going to succeed. And so for our staff, you know, it's not just a couple of decision makers here or there at the top or anything like that. It's everybody from, you know, the people that are just starting, you know, in the past 3 4 months, that are executing at a really high level to help grow this thing. And so we've got, you know, out of the 150 employees, probably 70% of them are these multidisciplinary creatives that are literally making magic every single day, that we get to share with the world and really to touch people, right? In terms of being able to connect and tell stories. And so it's been amazing. But again, it's there's no magic dust, as you know, that gets sprinkled on it. It's a combination of everybody coming together. Best idea wins. You know, work as hard as you can, support each other, be good for each other, especially during this last year, which was so difficult. You know, to understand, you know, what's happening outside of a work environment to make sure that people are able to operate at their best, and stretch their ceiling. You know.
Yeah, it's it's funny that you brought that up about how it's the importance, you know, going through it, as Sidney Magara likes to say, as he liked to say, you're not going to get judged on how you get knocked down. It's how you get back up. And I think that um, those scars and being able to go through tough times, you know, the good times are awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'd much rather go through 90% of the good times, but the 10% of the bad times that have happened over the course of the last 14 years, um, you've been able to look back on them, and the road hasn't been easy for either company. You know, it's not like, you know, we started doing this and we were like bankrolled by, you know, Daddy Warbucks. Like it started with $1 and a dream, you know, like, thank you, New Jersey Lotto, we love you. But you know, and that's
Yeah,
the
you're gonna have
endurance.
to pay now.
What?
Said you're gonna have to pay him for using that now. You know, you have to edit that out.
Come get me. Come get me. No, but it's super it's super gratifying to be able to do this and to be able to be there through the successes, to see good people succeed and do something that they actually that's the other side of it. There's so many people today that you see, like you said, like there's companies that have this meteoric rise and then, you know, they crash in like, 5 seconds. you you're running the race, dude, and you're running it the right way. You're doing right by people. You're making hard decisions. You're you are the epitome of servant leadership. And that's what I think has helped grow the company, has helped giving you perspective to be able to shape what you're doing. Because again, to be able to say, to your creatives as the company's grown from like 30 to 150 in a few years, like this is your work and I'm giving you the platform. But also on the other side of that, like to get a creative to understand, like, hey, like you might not be in that room, but trust me to showcase you and your passion in the best possible way. That's like the ultimate testament to trust. And that's super cool. Like going out, it's the same thing with DSM. Derek, he's not in every meeting, but like the people that are there, we've grown so close and he trusts us to be like, okay, here's the vision and here's how it has to work. And like when we do it, more times than not, people are like, oh my gosh, like you listened. I don't know what's going on in the world, but like there's so many people who don't listen. And I think that is part and parcel to why you've had the success you have. Um,
You know what was cool this year, D, was we did our town hall at the end of the year, and I think what was really cool, again, Louis Krubich, who's the founder of Malka Media, my partner in Malka Sports, um, his family came here from Russia with nothing. And Malka is in honor of his grandmother, who's the matriarch of their family, who came over here. And, you know, what was really cool is we had our year-end town hall, and one of our, editors, Brad Howell, who is literally one of the most talented humans on the planet, just insane, nominated for an Emmy this year for Tua for his editing. Um, he put together about a 5-minute video, kind of like in the history of Malka. And I think what was so cool was people kind of see current day 100 plus employees, the 2 offices, and a certain moniker of success, right? But understanding the journey of where things started,
yep.
and a family coming here from Russia, like first generation, here, like, and starting from scratch, like, to me, that was so important because that's the DNA that the company is built on, and the drive, right? And so that people that have, been with the companies, the senior leadership has really been with the company since early on, and that's very rare. And so they've really set the foundation for what this, company is. And so, like I say, from sports, I always say we're kind of like the candy aisle. It's like the little fun and easier of the stuff that everybody gets excited, wants to work on, and from a sports angle. But setting that foundation is so important, and that's where also, like, I had had other times to join other companies or partner up with different people, but for me, there needed to be an alignment, an understanding, and a value add, and also a compliment, right? Because if you're going to partner up with someone, they should bring strengths to you that might be your weaknesses, and vice versa. And that's why I think with Jeff and Lewis and Dan, partnering up with them and bringing the sports side, they also absolutely offered things to me that were weaknesses that I didn't have. And then again, as you've gone down the line, a waterfall starts with a drop of water. And now you just think about all the things to get built in, and the people that are coming in the door now and see, the exciting opportunities that are in front of us, and to be able to compete for anyone and everyone, or against anyone and everyone. But understanding where that started, it was just really cool to be able to kind of show the staff that journey and having literally NB or ABC news footage of Lewis and his family getting off the plane. So I thought it was really cool and important to be able to take a step back, similar to kind of what you're doing here.
Yeah. It's the journey, the journey has been very cool. Sometimes I don't know if you get the same feeling, but sometimes I sit there and I'm like, what would life have been if I had stayed like in big agency land, similar to you, like if you would have stayed with professional sports teams and gone down that rabbit hole of like continue, up the food chain of like in the ticket world or whatever, whatever it was, be very different. And you think about how the life lessons that you've been taught or some of the failures that you've had, they might not have been there, and
No, you're 100% right. And one thing that I think is important, right? Because I talk about this, how much I love what I do every day.
Mhm.
Um, it's not because like, I'm president or CEO, or it has nothing to do with the position, right? I mean, I love my position, I love what I do, but it goes back to like, well, what would have happened if I didn't do this? I would hope and think that I'd be really happy in doing whatever it was that I did, right? At least this way I know I don't have any regret, right? That I went after it and I was able to get that. But understanding where your joy comes from, right? And like, I don't necessarily love what I do simply because some sort of title I have. I love it because of the people that I get to work with every single day, right? And that is no bullshit. Like, I love seeing people in the office. I'm a people person. I love talking to people in the elevator or grabbing a coffee, seeing a new hire who's just starting out and kind of hear their story and what they're looking to accomplish and trying to help them out in some way, shape, or form. Getting to travel and recruit and do different things. The idea that I get to work with, Kevin Malast, who's, like a younger brother to me, every single day. And then, again, a guy like Julian Pinnock-Sodrick, same thing. Like, I care about these people, day to day. And now I get to work with them day to day. And they're literally like family that share our values. It's like stealing money. You know what I mean? Like if you don't love what you do, it just gives you I guess the last thing I'll say about it, try to say it this way, is like you have your personal and your business. And your personal you can't control, right? There's going to be things that happen in your personal life, relationships, health, etc., that you cannot control, right? But if you can control your work, meaning you do something that you love, then you can kind of have this consistency. Not that it won't be, hard or challenging or tough days. There's always going to be do that, right? That's life. But the idea of doing something that you love every day and doing with people you love every day, it's going to add a consistency to your life that's going to help, and not be so erratic. So finding something that you love is important. And most importantly, the people that you do it with, love them as well. So I think that to me, whether or not that was, running a sports agency or anything like that was never my goal back in the day. I always just wanted to do something that I loved and obviously continue to pursue this. And, this is where we landed. But hopefully, wherever it was, whatever I was doing, I would have found joy in, in that moment, wherever that might have been.
Yeah, I think it's funny because there's a similar narrative to that, like family.
Yep.
Family is very important. It's always been important. It's kind of what I love about you and how, whether you were running Lunar at like two people or, Malka at 150 or whatever the number will ultimately be. Um, that bond and that closeness, it's something that I've always felt with you, and it's kind of that embrace of like, you get it, like Pat gets it, like whatever you ask, however you do it, that bond, like there's never been a day similar to what you said. If I ever needed help with something, it's like, call Pat picks up the phone. It doesn't matter if Pat's at the scouting combine in Indianapolis or whatever it is. And so um
A funny story about that one year. I should put a button on this Henry Winkler story. One year, I was come back from the combine, And it was just, one of my guys that performed out there, and it was just like kind of like a really, cool moment. And I was coming back and feeling good. And I literally get off the plane. And as I walk out of the plane, there's like people waiting to board as you get off.
Yeah.
Henry Winkler is there.
No way.
Henry Winkler is there. I swear to God. And I walk up to him. I'm like, yo, if you will, it is not a dream. I said, you gave my speech at the end of 2000. He was like, oh, it's crazy. I was like, that's so cool. And I walked, I was like, that was out of a movie, to be able to go up to him and thank him. You know what I mean? Just like, I'll never forget it. Like, it just popped out of nowhere. I saw him, shook his hand, was like, thank you so much. And, kept on going. It was crazy.
Those good things. And I'll close it up here and then I'll give you the last word. But those good things, Mr. Capra, happen to good people. Keep being you, dude, because what you are doing, how you are doing it, and the values that you embody, my friend, I joke with you because I said, like, with like, behind the scenes, like you're crazy and we have fun and whatever. You're a national treasure, bro. There need to be more fat Capras in this world. There do.
I appreciate that. I don't know if we're quite national treasures. That we're working on this corner of the world. We're trying to work on right here.
Tell Jamie when you walk upstairs. I just call Jamie. He's a national treasure.
I'll see how that goes over. I'm sure my kids will blow me off immediately. Wife will tell me to look.
You're a national treasure. Just go. Just be like, yo, Mr. McGarrow called me a national treasure.
We'll see how interested they are when they get home. Thank you, man. I mean, this has been cool. Obviously, love catching up with you. The idea we can, do this and kind of share some stories and look back, certainly grateful, for the conversation, but more importantly, the first conversation we ever had, which led to this, and actually, funny thing we didn't touch on too, that conversation, we had such a great time in that first talk, 3 hours at your office. You said, hey, do you have any interest in going to the UFC? And you invited me to the UFC at Prudential Center. I'm like, yo, this is like our first date. And we like literally like a week later or 2 weeks later, we went to the Prudential Center. And Franco was like, hey, so how'd you guys meet? And I'm like, funny story. I think it's kind of like our first date, We had so you got a staph infection in your thumb.
That ended up, my thumb blew up. It was like a Flintstones episode. My thumb blew up. I had a staph infection in my thumb, and I'm like, wow. By the end of the night, I'm like, I can't even grip the important things. I'm like, I can't even grip my beer anymore. My finger is killing me. You're like, I think you should go get that checked when you get home. I literally went straight to Valley Hospital. They're like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I bit my cuticle or something.
That was crazy. That was it. But thank you, man. I appreciate you having me. And out of the bunker now, we're getting back to the office. So you got to come in Jersey City and catch up in person soon, brother. Thank you so much, and good luck with this. This is awesome, and continued luck with DSM and health and happiness to the family as well.
My friend, homage to you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for what you mean. Thank you for what you stand for, because you are not only a great friend, but you are a great human being. I wish you continued success. Keep blowing up like you are. And please wish everybody at Malka all the best. I'll see you guys soon. Like I said, Jersey City, I'm in for. I'm waiting that jelly bean invite in Santa Monica, bro. I'm there. You can put me in your suitcase.
Absolutely. You're in. You're in.
All right, pal. Stay out of trouble. Best of luck with everything, and we'll catch up soon.
You as well. Have a good day, buddy. Attack it.
All right, pal.
See it.